Are we really able to adjust the physiological journeys change in our environment? We are being tested today more rigorously than ever before. As we saw in Chapter 3, the repeated and inappropriate arousal of the fight or flight response suggests that we may not be capable of adapting ourselves either psychologically or physiologically as fast as the environment around us changes. Indeed, the prevalence of hypertension and the rapid rise of deaths from heart disease and stroke strongly suggest that we are not. Since the environment is unlikely to grow less complex or more stable, we must find within our own bodies or physiologic means of dealing with the demands of 20th century life. Can we influence our own physiologic reaction to stress through individually controlled mental practices? Mental control. Behavioral experiments have addressed this problem for several decades. Dr. B.F. Skinner of Harvard University showed the extent to which behavior is determined by an environment. Alter the environment and you can control behavior. Skinner's behavioral experiments dealt with over-skeletal muscular effects, such as training an animal to press a key or level in the presence of what he called the reinforcer, a reward that will increase the likelihood that the animal will do it again. For example, if he wanted a pigeon to peck at a certain key, each time the pigeon moved closer to that key, Skinner would reward it with a pellet of food. When it moved even closer, another pellet would be there as a reward. Eventually, by guiding and shaping the animal through reinforcement, the pellet of food, Skinner trained the pigeon to peck time and again at the desired key. Skinner thus succeeded in shaping the voluntary muscular behavior of the animal. Dr. Neil E. Miller took Skinner's research a significant step further into the autonomic nervous system, saying that one can alter not only voluntary muscular behavior, but also a subject's involuntary behavior. Through Miller's work, control of involuntary bodily processes was shown to be possible through biofeedback. A forerunner in the field, Miller showed through years of experimentation that involuntary bodily processes, such as the amount of blood flowing to an animal's ear, could be changed. Experiments centering on biofeedback involve rewarding desired performance, which in turn alters internal bodily functions. In brief, then, proponents of biofeedback believe that by mentally recognizing a biological function, you can gain control of that function. We have long been aware that man's skeletal muscles are commanded by his voluntary nerves acting through the brain. However, Western man has only recently recognized that he can control his involuntary responses. The regulator of these involuntary responses, such as blood pressure, heartbeat, and amount of blood flow to various parts of the body, is called the autonomic nervous system. Visceral learning, or biofeedback, and as it is popularly called, established that man could control his involuntary or autonomic nervous system. Using the concepts of biofeedback, Miller trained rats to alter a number of internal involuntary acts by appropriate rewards and punishments. He accomplished this by monitoring the rat's physiological functions following certain changes and then signaling or feeding back rewards for changes in the desired direction. The biofeedback of Miller is based upon the operant conditioning of Skinner. Miller's methods of rewards and punishment paralleled Skinner's reinforcements, and in this way he was able to shape autonomic or so-called involuntary functions. We have used operant conditioning and biofeedback to demonstrate the behavioral control of blood pressure. Devising a system that would feed back information about blood pressure levels to a group of laboratory monkeys, we trained these monkeys to rise or lower their blood pressure through the use of rewards and punishments. We have also shown that hypertensive human beings were capable of lowering their blood pressure. Before we started these investigations, we obtained the approval of both a Harvard and a Boston City Hospital human Justice Committee whose purpose is to protect the rights and safety of volunteers in any scientific study. Before each study, the subject's rights and risks were thoroughly explained and each gave his written informed consent. In this investigation, we attached the patients to monitors that kept them informed of momentary rises or falls of blood pressure. Through the use of such feedback, our patients apparently learned to lower their systolic blood pressure levels. But when we asked these subjects how they lowered their blood pressures, they said simply that they did so by thinking relaxing thoughts. If that was so, we reasoned, why should we bother with the biofeedback apparatus? After all, biofeedback has several major drawbacks. Usually no more than one physiological function at a time can be fed back up and thus changed. Also, biofeedback involves a great deal of costly equipment. The physiologic changes that are going on must be carefully monitored. Heart rate, for example, must be monitored and measured on a beat-to-beat basis so you can recognize when heart rate goes up or down and reward in the appropriate direction. Although Miller demonstrated experimentally that involuntary functions could be purposely altered, subsequently systematic research shows us that the same result could be achieved by methods other than biofeedback. But centuries before such research, dramatic claims for control of physiological functions had already come to us from the East. According to these claims, physiologic functions could be controlled through the use of the ancient meditational techniques of yoga and Zen Buddhism. Yoga, a part of Indian culture for thousands of years, is the culmination of ancient Hindu efforts to give man the fullest possible control over his mind.